Thank you, Rob. Appreciate everyone. Good morning to everyone. Thank you. It's a pleasure to welcome you here today as we gather to speak about something that affects everyone here in this room, the next generation of agriculture. Farming has always been built on the balance between tradition and innovation, foundational knowledge that's passed down through generations that carry the industry forward. But with each new generation also, we bring new tools, new ideas, new ways of solving the challenges that we face. Today, our conversation is about this next generation, those who return to the family farm, those who build the foundation of their operation from the ground up, from those who bring those tools into their community through advocacy, and those may be doing the things that maybe no one understands. We're fortunate to have a panel of speakers with diverse perspectives that bring that experience, insight, and deep understanding with the opportunities and challenges that may lay ahead. So to start us off, we're gonna give a brief introduction from each operation, who we are, where we're from, and what we're up to. And Brianna, we'll start with you since I hear you graze sheep near volcanoes.
Thank you, Kara. So I think of what you're thinking is the term agrivoltaics, which is the dual use of solar sites with agriculture underneath the panels. I'm Brianna Reed, and I'm from Northwest Indiana, a part of Indiana Farmers Union. I am a solar grazer. My sheep live under solar panels for 8 months out of the year, from April to November, grazing the grass underneath the panels, providing shade and comfort for them during those summer months. We raise a vast majority of sheep, and we also have purebred Suffolk sheep as well as Katahdins. We have a vast operation in Northwest Indiana that also includes a rare breed of heritage pigs, and we love our large blacks on the farm.
I'm Kaeloni Latham. I'm with South Dakota Farmers Union. We come from the northwest corner of South Dakota, pretty close to Montana and North Dakota. I did not grow up in agriculture. My dad's family farmed over in Han County, South Dakota, and my mom's family ranched down in the Sandhills in Nebraska, but I did not grow up in it. So everything that I have learned has been since my husband and I got married. And I was introduced to the cattle industry in 2014 when we got married. And for those of you that know, 2014 was a really good year. And I was like, this is great. I was super excited about all the possibilities. And then the next year was 2015, and the market crashed, and everything was less than half of what it had been the year before. So I'm excited to kind of bring to you the perspective of somebody who knew what agriculture was and how important it was, but didn't understand the importance that it takes from you personally to be involved.
I'm Tim Bates from Woodward County, Oklahoma. I'm a first-generation farmer. I'm an ag service business owner, and that led to me starting my own operation. We farm wheat, alfalfa, Bermuda, and we raise cattle, run stocker cattle, and I'm glad to be here on this panel.
I'm Mike Seifert. I'm with Minnesota Farmers Union, and I have a small family farm operation. I'm a fourth generation on our farm, which is just south of the Twin Cities. And we consider ourselves regenerative row crop farmers. So we only have about 67 acres of cropland, so we're on a very small scale. But we grow corn, soybeans, alfalfa, oats, and winter rye. I make maple syrup, and we occasionally raise broiler chickens on pasture. And we do a lot of direct marketing of our products from our farm direct to the public. So that's, I think, a good introduction for me.
So the first question we're gonna hop into is, what does success look for you on your operation right now? Not necessarily the 20-year projection, but right now, currently, what is successful for you in your operation?
What's successful in my operation is being able to have cash flow. And if that's my cash flow is through my ag service business. And so success is being able to make things flow well together. And that's how my operation's currently working like it is.
So for my operation, it would be continuing to add solar sites under our portfolio. We are currently looking to grow and expand the operation, and being able to have access to land is very important to my operation. So being able to add more sites with those vegetative management contracts would help immensely with my operation.
I guess for us, my husband and I have 3 little boys, and they're with us every single day. So the importance for us is continuing, letting them see how important this is, letting them work alongside us, because we might be the next generation, but they're the generation after us. So it's very important for us to see success now so that they can have success later.
Success for me on our farm, given how small it is, it's real simple. Am I able to write myself a paycheck? And that's a challenge for us with small acreage. So I kind of look at it, we do a lot of soil health practices. And in all those cases, we want to set a goal and very specific, concrete goals that we can achieve. And so if I can farm in an ecological manner that's respectful and healthy for the environment, and also be able to make money and pay myself, that's what success looks for us right at this moment.
And then as well as those successes, right, we talk a lot about cash flow and money. What's something that you may have experienced on your operation, operationally, fundamentally, going to the banks, that's a barrier currently as a next-gen producer that other folks may not run into when they walk into those spaces?
Having access to capital, working capital, has been a big challenge, especially with today's markets. What everything costs, everything is so expensive. And it doesn't matter whether you're going to the grocery store to buy food for your family or you're buying a piece of equipment at your local dealership, buying fertilizer. Everything is so expensive. And so having the ability to convince the bank they need to give you a large amount of money so you can grow and continue to operate is very challenging. The FSA has been great whenever getting us started. They have been really good to work with. And so as a young producer, I encourage you to seek your local FSA offices and take advantage of those young farmer loans. It'll really give you a boost and get you going and get you in the direction you need to be going.
A little follow-up question for you on that one. He knows what's coming. What about the folks that just tell you, well, just go down to the bank, they'll write you a check? They like what you're doing. You're a young farmer.
That is a hard question.
It's okay to be honest.
My problem with today is we have, in my area, we have a lot of banks that are getting swallowed up. Our small local banks are getting swallowed up by large corporate banks, and the large corporate banks do not understand ag. And so I've found I'm actually shopping for a bank currently because my bank got swallowed up by a big corporate bank in the last, 6 months. And so trying to find a new bank that's local, that understands ag has been a challenge. And that's trying to deal with that has been a challenge for me.
Perfect. Anyone else? Yeah.
So I have to have a day job to be able to support my husband's ranching hobby. I actually work for a bank, and it's a small rural bank. And part of this, with agriculture, a lot of us live in very rural areas. And so we need to remember, we need to support those local communities so that we can keep these small, local operated banks that can understand what we're doing. These big corporate banks are coming in. These people are leaving because job opportunities aren't available. I mean, we need to remember that, yes, agriculture is our number one priority, but agriculture supports the rural communities that are supporting us. We got to keep those businesses there. And that would keep that communication and that trust that you have between you and your loan officer instead of some guy in Chicago that you don't know.
So along the side of that, of challenges that we may face as new generational operators, we hear a lot about Plan A, Plan B, we're on Plan C or D, but I want to just dive into Plan Z. So, Mike, could you tell us a little bit about maybe something that's going on for you that you've already had to pivot straight through the alphabet and just start up at Plan Z with us?
I can talk about that a little bit because we've had to be really innovative on our farm. But I always like to say, in the context of this question, sometimes I feel like I've forced Plan Z on others. But so my dad, when it came time to decide who was going to take over the family farm operation, I was really the only candidate. I have one sister who's almost 18 years older than me, and so it was either going to be me or no one. And so, and my dad is the type who would keep farming the farm into the ground himself if I didn't take over. And so, I basically approached him and said, I'm willing to do this, but we have to make some changes. And so that started with the soil health practices and no-till and cover crops and looking into soil biology and hoping that on our little operation that would make us profitable enough to make it a full-time venture for me. But then, learning that that wasn't enough to make enough money just on its own, then it became, well, how do we make a commodity row crop farm pay a higher price? And it was, let's start selling small square bales of hay direct to the horse market, and let's start bagging up 50-pound bags of wildlife corn and selling that direct to the public, and bags of oats and anything we grew on the farm. It was, how can we clean this, bag it, sell it direct to a customer? So, I mean, I feel like it's been a series of plan Z's of like, you're driven to, how can I innovate? How can I make something happen that for us just doesn't exist otherwise? You can't make a living selling commodity corn and soybeans when you're growing 20 acres of corn. So that's a plan Z for me.
To quote our Secretary Paul Jackson, I like the behind every successful farm is a wife with a town job. And it's unfortunate, but that's the case in today's society. I'd like to see a show of hands in here. How many of you guys have off-farm income? Whether your wife works, your spouse works, probably everybody in here. And it's too bad that has to be like that in today's ag. And maybe in the future it doesn't have to be like that. But we have three full-time jobs just to make our farming operation work.
I just want to talk about Plan Z. I think that's funny that you stopped at Z and didn't start going into the thousands of numbers, because I think we've all have surpassed Z at this point. For us, Plan whatever you want to call it was importing a ram from Canada. We were no longer impressed with some of the genetics here for Suffolk sheep in the United States, so we took it across the border into Canada. We imported a ram in June, and we found that his genetic pool is much deeper and has much better power for grass grazing on solar than anything I found in this country. So I've even taken it across the border. And my ram, his name's Lucky. Lucky has been very lucky, and he has given so much life back into whatever plan number we're at, because we didn't know what we were going to do, because we want to see the solar journey continue long term. We want this to be a career, and we want to inspire the next generation as well to see that there are more opportunities for diversifying your farm, whether that's putting sheep on solar or whatever else it may be. But we want to show that there are opportunities out there. You just got to go a little farther to find them, and I guess that's my plan Z.
And I think, too, that is a puzzle piece along with the land access component of what are we going to do when our young folks don't have access to land. They're going to have to pivot and be looking to where they can utilize land in our communities to do their operations. Kind of following up along with that for everyone, with these innovative things that you either brought to your farm, your communities, your operations, has someone in the general public, maybe someone that has a more considerable experience doing the field of farming, ever said to you, that won't work?
Yeah, I get that about every day. We have a lot of the old folks around there. They're never happy. Whether it's we may get 2 inches of rain. Well, it's too muddy. I can't get anything done today. Well, let it have it rain. It's too dry. So trying to be positive in a negative atmosphere has been difficult for me. But yeah, stay positive.
I've been told plenty of times that I'm crazy. If you would have met me 10 years ago, you would laugh at me, because I did not grow up on a farm. I did not grow up with animals. I'm especially afraid of electricity. So the fact that I work on a power plant every day and I choose to go to a power plant every day is just mind-boggling to me, but I wouldn't have it any other way. My girls thrive on solar. They love solar. But I can't tell you, I don't have enough fingers, toes, plans A through Z to tell you how many people have told me that I'm crazy, but good luck. And so far, I'm doing it, and it's working. And the girls absolutely thrive.
And That's what we have to be resilient. We have to figure it out, and we are going to figure it out. Whenever I bought my first quarter of land, I paid $1,800 an acre for it, and all the old men were like, "Oh, that ain't ever going to work." And just in the last 8 years, it's now over $3,300 an acre. So don't listen to the negativity, and you do you, and get up every morning, put your boots on, and go to work, and figure it out.
I think on that note, it's easy for people to look at what you're doing and not understand being outside of your operation and to tell you that's not going to work. Like people told us no-till wouldn't work in our area because we have heavy clay soils and things like that. But it's so important to find a community you can get into that's supportive too, like Farmers Union. And like in my case, I'm a member of the Minnesota Soil Health Coalition too and do mentor work with them. And getting in a group where you can say, I'm thinking about trying this, and instead of going, oh no, forget it, that's not been done here and you're not going to make it work, instead be like, yeah, that's a great idea, like pursue that, think about it, do it in a way that's low risk, do it, step into it slowly if you need to, but like we need to be innovating and experimenting, and so being able to ignore those words of discouragement is important.
I guess I had heard a quote that said that complacency is the death of an operation. So we need to be willing to keep an open mind, try new things. Every single year, new technology is coming out. It might seem scary. I mean, a lot of us have heard about AI and how it's going to take over people's jobs. We just need to learn how to use this stuff as a tool and make our operations the best that they can be and work for us. We are working for us, nobody else. Their opinions don't matter. If it works for you, do it.
And just as a follow-up to that, is there something within your community, a mentor, you mentioned Farmers Union, that has been a bright beacon of light that keeps you going and plugging away and plugging back into that community?
Farmers Union has absolutely been life-changing. We started a few years ago. We didn't have an active chapter in our county, and we went to a tri-state conference in Oklahoma City, and I believe my husband's exact words were, they're not going to send us to Oklahoma City all expensive paid. That's bullcrap. And we went, and it has been a roller coaster ride ever since then. We got asked to be part of the fuel program. We really took roles into leadership. We brought our county back. Our county has won awards every single year since then. I'm now on my district board. You have to be willing to step into those leadership positions, and Farmers Union will open those doors in ways you won't even believe.
I like the connections that it makes with people. Our little Oklahoma Farmers Union chapter, they started a young program. It's Strive, and I was one of the first members of that program. And we almost feel like family now. And if I need something, if I need cattle, I can say, hey, Clayton, what do you got for cattle today? If I need chemical, I can say, hey, Dylan Travis, what's chemical costing today? And so having the ability to converse, because especially Oklahoma's very diverse in their ag. I learned we have chickens and there's pecans and all kinds of different stuff down all over the state. We just don't raise cattle and wheat. So, but having that ability to be able to make connections, lifelong connections, and their lifelong friendships, and I'm thankful for that.
I'll just take a moment. Just because I don't want to upset the president and vice president, pecans, pecans.
I also want to add to the Farmers Union experience. I was accepted into BFI in 2024, and I had no idea what Farmers Union was. I found it from a Facebook ad, and I applied and I got in. I didn't have a ton of farming friends. There's not a lot of farmers in my area, especially sheep farmers, especially solar grazers. So when I had found Farmers Union, I was like, okay, this is really cool. Like I could really do this. And then I went to Women's Conference in San Antonio, Texas. And I was welcomed with the biggest arms of women I have ever met. I had not one person tell me, that I wasn't welcome here because of what I do. In my goal sheet for BFI, they have you put a set of goals down, and the number one thing I put in every single category was that I was wanting more friends. I wanted a community, and I for sure found that community within Farmers Union, and I couldn't be more blessed.
Man, I have to echo everything you guys have said, because I think it's really important when times are tough and we're facing tough times that you have that community, and Farmers Union has absolutely been that, where you can reach out to people, ask questions, network with people, like bring your problems to other people if you need to, and like have that open dialogue. And you just never know. What I found in my experience with Farmers Union and other groups that I've been working with, it's like you never know when the next door is going to open up to you just by having the right conversation. But farming can be a really lonely occupation, and so like I feel like we all know something that a lot of people don't, you know what I mean, which is to get out and be in the community and keep having those conversations even when you feel like you should be doing something else, so absolutely.
And I'll just share a personal experience, I think, was at my second fly-in DC, and I remember we were being welcomed by the USDA and sitting in the room, and on our way out, at the time, Xochitl Torres Small pulled a group of young producers to the side and said, I specifically want to hear what you guys have to say. What's going on in farm country? And to have that recognition, even at that level, was just game-changing. It makes you feel seen, it makes you feel heard, and I cannot thank Farmers Union enough for providing us with those experiences. And I want to jump next to, if we want to keep the next generation in agriculture and having a fair shot, what do you think that entails and looks like?
Keeping them involved. Farmers Union has a great education program, and it's not just Farmers Union, but for those of you that have kids, take them along. Let them see what you're doing and why you're doing it.
I think this is tricky for me. Like, I feel like we need to find a way to open the door to so many people who feel like they don't have a way to start in agriculture. For me, I know I was given kind of every advantage being able to take over an existing operation. But even then, like it wouldn't have worked if my parents hadn't been willing to compromise with me and just essentially deed it over to me to be able to do. And so I don't know how we get past the idea of like how can young people get into this without making a gigantic financial investment. So I don't have answers to that, but I feel like we need to find ways as a community to open those doors and be willing to make those hard choices, to be able to decide what we're prioritizing, whether it's well, I think about another couple that I know too who were able to gain access to farmland because the couple that they purchased their farm from were willing to lower the price substantially for the land, and like how do we bring that to a much larger scale? That only happens on a small scale with one or two people that I'm aware of in our area, you know what I mean? So I don't have answers for that, but I wish I did.
I also don't have answers, but as someone who did not come from agriculture and who got into agriculture, it is so important we share our stories and our struggles. My second date with my husband, he took me to see our sheep. And I thought they were the cutest and most fluffiest things I'd ever seen in my entire life, and I thought I was never going to have to do anything with them, which is hilarious because they are my entire world and I cannot imagine my life without them. But I've decided to start telling my story and tell people how I got into agriculture, what it's done for me, and how it's saved me, and it's truly the best thing I've ever done. And no, that's not going to change the world in beginning farmers, and I understand that. But so many people have come up to me and said they've started a garden. They go to their community gardens. They talk with other people about how to start programs, and they want to start talking about their experiences as well. So if we can get people to start talking, it's a way to get people more involved because we just need more people involved. I know that's still not the answer, but it's a start.
That is a hard question, and there is days that I question, what am I doing? Like, why are we doing this? Why are we fighting it? But then you work really hard. You may work a 20-hour day, hadn't seen your family in 3 or 4 days because you've been on a tractor, and you get done early and the sun's setting, and you go outside and push a little girl on a swing. You're like, okay, this is worth it. I hope that maybe someday my daughter can come back and run my operation. She probably won't because she hates tractors and she always complains about having to go do farm work. But maybe she'll grow out of that.
I guess one thing, especially for people that are just getting into it, I mean, we're on, since my husband and I have gotten married, year 12 or 13 now. So we have a little bit of experience, but not as much as experience as a lot of you that are in the room. But don't give up. Like, find a way. Sit down, talk to people. What works for somebody might not work for you, but you might be able to take a piece of that and make it work on your operation. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Plan. Make a plan. Plan A through Z and 1 through 1,000. It doesn't matter which plan works as long as you make the attempt. Don't give up. Don't get discouraged, because it is worth it.
Yeah, and to follow that up too, don't try to do it all at once. Build relationships, especially like on access to land. You know, there's people that it took me 10, 12 years to develop relationships with some of the older folks in our community that I knew they were probably going to be retiring and they had nobody else to take over their operation. So start developing those relationships. Start planting that seed with your neighbors and being there. Whenever they call, be there. Go help them, because that's an everything thing to do. But that also opens up doors for opportunities to maybe you being able to rent ground next to you.
Cool. And then I will ask, do we have time to maybe take a couple of questions? Cool. If anybody has any questions, we would take a couple of audience questions.
So I am a vegetative management contract. So I do not own the land nor the solar. I am strictly out there grazing, and we are paid for our services.
I'm gonna go to this.
Boy, I don't know.
I can speak a little bit to that, maybe not the totality, and by no means speaking on behalf of anyone, but I know that there are states within Farmers Union that have received foundational grants or are able to help connect members in that way from some of those larger folks that are looking to support agriculture. So there are programs out there. And I would encourage everyone, there are more and more developing, so continue to look for them, or go to your state, or go to your local, or go to your national, and start asking some of those questions, and or bridging those gaps. I'd like to point out too, to Rob's point last night, there are so many young beginning farmers and ranchers in this room, and we are more powerful when we connect and stand together. You don't have to rely just on the folks from your state. I have made some of my closest and dearest friends at National Farmers Union conferences, at women's conferences, at state conferences. I would encourage you to continue to ask those questions, because they're important ones that then build our broader goals out and a knowledge base.
I know in just regular farming operations, scalability and efficiency are the two things we have control over, and they're so important to your bottom line. If any of you guys have an anecdotal story or a thought about how you've either struggled or succeeded with scaling up or creating efficiencies within your system to meet some bottom line dollars, I'd be interested, because I know in my own small operation, scaling up has been extremely hard.
Yeah, so scaling is extremely hard, and growing pains are not fun. my ag service business, I started it, and then we farmed after that. So my equipment that I have to service our ag service business is I get to use it on my personal farm. And so having that, being able to make things work, make things pencil out. If you can do it quicker, yeah, you may have to do an investment on a bigger tractor to get something done quicker. But I mean, that's definitely been a challenge. Just try to make it make sense. And like I said, do whatever you got to do to make it work.
Yeah, I can speak to that too, because scaling up is something that we have struggled with a lot because we're such a small operation. And I think too, I was raised with that mentality of, as a farmer, you have to do everything yourself. And I think it's been really hard for me personally to break out of that mold. And even now, like, I am the person running my farm. I don't have employees. My dad has gotten to an age where it's very physically difficult for him to help operate the farm now. And my kids are still a little too young to be chipping in. And so trying to, again, like what you guys have all touched on, build those connections and figure out how we can increase our capacity for production so that we can earn a living. For me too, in our area being so close to the Twin Cities metro area, land prices are outrageously high. For what some of the land is selling around us, if you pencil it out, it doesn't pay. I mean, you can't buy it with the intention to farm it and actually see any kind of profit off of it or even be able to make the payments. And so I will openly admit we have essentially, I don't like to use the word failed, but we haven't found a solution yet for how we can increase production and be able to build our farm enterprise. So it's a real challenge. Right now we're relying on off-farm income to help make things go and hope that we stay profitable, but at the same time, it's never quite enough. So
I guess one thing that I would say on that is make sure you're planning accordingly. Like, look at your finances, have a good plan in place. Don't grow too big too fast to where you put yourself in jeopardy. Your financials, when you work on an operation, you wear so many different hats, and being an accountant, being a business manager comes with that. So make sure you are having a good plan in place. You're comfortable with the expansions that you're doing. Don't overextend yourself. Don't compare yourself to others. Somebody might be growing faster. That doesn't matter. Do what works for your operation.
Go ahead.
So we were able to expand our farm because of the solar grazing. Because my sheep have a place to go for 8 months out of the year, we were able to add the large black pigs. But without that opportunity, we would not have been able to grow to the numbers that we've grown to. So finding that kind of niche, spot to be in is what definitely helped our farm grow and expand.
I'd like to say, don't be afraid to be uncomfortable. I think I was told, a little man told me, he said, if you're comfortable, you're not growing. So if you want to grow and expand, sometimes you do got to take a risk out there, and you may not sleep for a couple days thinking about what you just did. But figure it out.
And I'll add on to that as well, being a younger producer or not having access to some of the things you have, you may be forced to slow down your growth. And in a world that we kind of live in, a social media world, what's happening out in Maine may not be what applies in Oklahoma and California and Colorado, so you have to think about regionally, what are you doing? What are the smartest moves forward? And sometimes personally for me, that's been cutting a lot of the big name ticket items that everybody else throws out the window, because they just weren't making money. They weren't holding their soil space. So not being afraid to say no and knowing what's working on your operation is so key. I think there was one more question in the back.
I'm wondering what specific policy changes or recommendations would you like to see or would be the most helpful on your operations right now?
I would like to see some policy changes where specialty crops or specialty producers maybe have some more access. It seems like anytime we go to the FSA office, we check the wrong box and we just get lost out on a farm payment because we didn't check the right thing. Prime example, they came out with the FBA program just here recently. A lot of my producers in Woodward County did not meet it because they checked graze out only Now, we may not harvest our crops with a combine, but we harvest our crops with cattle. And so all those farmers that still had all those inputs on planting wheat, they didn't get a single dime off that FBA program. And so we need to revise that and really stop being so specific on what they're paying and really look at the broader picture.
I'll get on a soapbox here. I think more inclusion, right? We talk a lot of times about what we know works in agriculture.